Right, hey guys. I know my channel is more of a gaming channel, but just wanted to talk about Tesla's financial position for a little bit and why why it's really not good right now. Um, I follow tech news and I follow Tesla quite closely just because it's fun to see all the debate and stuff that's happening. And I recently saw a YouTube video that basically said Tesla's in a great position because their revenue is increasing and they're projected to make over $100 billion of revenue. And I just thought that was just a crazy statement to make, that because their revenue is increasing, that Tesla is in a great position right now. The revenue doesn't tell you anything about Tesla's position, so it kind of motivated. I guess it kind of got my goat a little bit and motivated me to make this video and show people why there's a lot of people saying that Tesla's financial position is really bad, and I mean really bad. So let's get right into it. It's not going to be a very detailed analysis. It's going to be super cursory, and to be honest, the video that I saw didn't even bother to do uh, something as basic as what I'm going to show you now, and I guess that's why it kind of annoyed me a little bit. Um, First of all, let's talk about projections, and they're projected, $100+ billion for 2019. Um, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, a projection is just a projection, right? Now, obviously, Tesla is projecting that number based on their manufacturing, how much cars they want to manufacture, how many cars they want to be able to sell every year. Um, Now, it's not really news to anyone that Tesla has never been able to hit their projections. They have always said, by the end of 2017, we'll be able to produce X number of cars, and they didn't. And by the end of quarter one in 2018, it looks like they're going to miss their target again. And time again, they've always missed their targets. So, are you going to continue to believe them? I guess that's up to you. That's your call to make. But if I guess you think about it this way, if you invested your money in a bank and your bank said, "Oh, okay, next year you're going to be we're going to give you a 20% return," but they only give you 10%, and they keep telling you that time and time again, what are you going to think? You're going to think they're a liar. You're going to think they're full of crap, right? And so that is kind of the case of Tesla. A lot of people are saying, "Well, you keep saying these things, but you never deliver." So you take it how you will. Whether you believe them or not is your prerogative. And I'm not here to really try to swing you one way or the other. But the fact of the matter is they have never been able to reach the targets. So when they say that they have $100 billion of revenue projected for 2019, well, it's just a projection. They may or may not hit that target. So we can't really tell anything from that. We can't tell whether it doesn't say anything to us. It doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. And the revenue figure is also relatively meaningless. And so I want to go through the quick look at the financial statements and show you uh, a quick analysis of it, I guess. All right, so here I have Tesla's past 5 years financial statement. This is their income statement. And you can see, yeah, their revenue's been increasing. So 2013 it was 2 billion, and 2017 is almost $12 billion. That's quite a large increase. Now, normally, if you're increasing your revenue, that means you're increasing your expenses, right? And so in the next line here, we have what is being called in this website cost of revenue, or also commonly known as cost of sales or cost of goods sold, whatever you want to call it. Now, these costs or expenses are these they are the expenses that are directly related to revenue producing activities. So in Tesla's case, you're thinking things like manufacturing, so machine hours, labor hours, um, and maybe delivery costs because you got to deliver or fulfillment. Let's call it fulfillment, order fulfillment, right? So those kind of costs. And then you take the net of those figures. So you revenue minus the cost of revenue, and you get the gross profit. And so your gross profit is, how much money are you making per sale, right? So you can think of it this way: if I make a product for $100, $100, and I sell it to you for $120, I've made $20 gross profit, right? So it's just basic maths. It's nothing fancy. If we present the gross profit as a percentage, or as a percentage of revenue, this is where it starts to get interesting. We call this the gross profit margin, right? Um, so when we present it as a percentage of revenue, then we can start to see some trends, okay, over time. And so when I have a look at the percentage, the gross profit margin, I can see that the gross profit margin for Tesla is actually trending downwards in recent years. So it went from 27% to 18 or 19%, let's say, in 2017. Now, it's not the end of the world. It's not a big, it's not doomsday material or anything. You can't say, the gross profit margin is decreasing, therefore it's going to, it could come up this year. It could increase in 2018. It could just be a little dip over the, 3 or 4 years in a company's history is relatively short period of time, right? So you can't really say that this is doomsday material, but it's also not a good thing to see. It's not a good sign. It's not a good trend. You don't want that trending downwards. Why? Because what that means is that your costs are increasing. It's either your costs are increasing or your revenues decreasing, and both are not good things to happen. It could be both simultaneously. You could decrease your revenue and increase your costs as well, and that's also not very good. So that what that basically means is that instead of producing a product for $100 and selling it for 120, you might now be producing for 110 and selling for 120, right? And so you've decreased your gross profit. And so, as you can imagine, that's not a good thing. If you were a business owner and you saw your gross profit decreasing, you'd probably think to yourself, that's not a good thing. Why is it decreasing? You'd want to manage that quite carefully. Most companies try to keep it steady. Of course, there'll be ups and downs, but yeah, a decrease, not good, not good. So already we can start to see not great for Tesla. Now, I did want to talk about the bottom line for Tesla. What is it? The net. Where is it here? The net income, right? People like to say that Tesla's been making a loss every year, so therefore they're not going to be around for long, and that all companies need to make a profit eventually. That argument is really not that true as well, I would say, because, all right, so yes, I think companies in the very long term, and you're talking about the life of the company, like companies are, you're talking 20, 30 years, multiple decades. Yes, I think companies do need to produce a profit eventually. So in that sense, it's true, but we're not talking about that kind of length. Or normally, when people say that, they're not talking about that kind of viewpoint. They're talking about very short term, 4 to 5 years, and that may sound like a long time to most people, but really, in the life of a company, that's not that long. And I would consider that really short term, not even really mid term. Um, so they're talking short term. I think companies can eat losses for quite a long time before they may turn into a profit-making company. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but I guess I say all that to say that focusing on the bottom line so much isn't helpful. It's just as unhelpful as focusing in on the revenue only. The numbers just they don't really tell you anything. They don't really help you to understand the company at all. Um, they're just numbers on a page, really. And the reason the bottom line is really not that helpful is because you have a lot of other expenses going on. They could be once-off expenses. They may not happen every year. You might buy a factory this year, and you might not buy a factory this year, but that will still show up as some sort of an expense, whether it's in the depreciation expense. So it's not the best figure to be focusing in on. And I would say anyone who's saying like, oh look, they've been making losses all this time, they're not they're doing themselves a disservice by really not doing their research properly. So I say all that just to say it's not a helpful figure. Don't even worry about it. I would say the first figure that you really need to worry about or really think about is the gross profit and the gross profit margin. And then we move on to the second part of my very short analysis, and that is the cash flows. There's a lot to the cash flow statement, but I'm just going to show you the end part here, which is the free cash flow, which shows the operating cash flows and the capital expenditure. And so if you don't understand what cash flow is, it's basically how much money has come in and how much is going out, how much money is going out of the business. And we're talking about actual cash. We're not talking about bonds, and we're not talking about stocks or any of that stuff. We're talking about real cash, like, you know what I mean? So, like actual cold hard cash. And that's what this statement is supposed to kind of surface. And when we look at it, their free cash flow, which is quite an important number, is negative for 5 years in a row. Not very large in 2013, but increasingly large in 2017, right? Now, I guess to explain this concept, I would say like if you imagine that you are spending more money every year than you're receiving, let's say you receive 100,000 every year, but you spend 200,000 every year. You can't do that forever. There must be some stage where you just eventually run out of money, right? And money, of course, is important to a business because without money, you can't pay your suppliers, you can't pay your staff. Yeah. So not having any money is a big no-no for business. And the fact that Tesla continuously, year on year, spends more money than they receive, um, you have to ask the question, how long can they continue doing? So if you combine the decreasing gross profit margin with the very negative cash flow of Tesla year on year, it's just not a good outlook for Tesla as a business. Now, I wanted to address one more issue or one more thing that I have seen thrown around is that, hey, Tesla is comparable to, say, another company like Amazon, right? Because Amazon took losses for a very long time before they turned profitable. And I wanted to see if that was true. So I pulled up Amazon's financial statements here and I'm just going to have a quick look at it. And what I found was Amazon's financial statements actually tell a very different story. Their gross profit margin is increasing. So you can see it's increasing significantly here, which is good. It's always good news. It probably means economies of scales are kicking in, and they're just increasing that gross profit margin. And then when you look at their cash flow, their free cash flow down here, you can see it's positive all the way for 5 years in a row. Positive, positive, positive. Now, people might say, you might argue that, hey, look, you can't compare the past 5 years for Amazon to the past 5 years of Tesla because Tesla's a new company, Amazon's a relatively old company. So you're not comparing apples to apples. You're comparing late stage company to early stage company, right? And that's fair enough. I think that's a fair enough statement. Unfortunately, I can't get 10 years here because I don't pay for this website. But what I did is I found another website which would give me more years for the free cash flow for Amazon, right? So in the chart, it's only got 5 years. You've got to pay money to receive the analysis for 10 years. But they do give me the breakdown for all the way back to 2005. So this is, again, free cash flow only. And you can see that they were majority of the time positive. They had some negatives, of course, but most years they seem to be positive. I would wager the bet, I haven't done it, but I would wager the bet if you add it all up, it would be a net positive. And you can really see that Amazon was managing their cash flow here. They were carefully making sure they were making a positive cash flow all the way through. If they took massive losses in cash flows one year, they would try to mitigate it and bring it back. So you had 1.88 4 billion there, and then a positive here, 3.7. So 3.7 much larger than minus 1.8. So you can see that Amazon's management was really carefully looking at this cash flow. Whereas with Tesla, you can see that they're not. They're just spending money like no tomorrow. There's no end to their money. Um, and they may feel that way because they may say, oh, we have access to bank loans. We can always get a bank loan. We can always issue more stocks. We can always issue more uh, bonds. We can always ask a private investor to invest in us and give us money. But if they continue to spend the way they do, yeah, kind of have to ask the question, well, how much longer can they do that? And evidently, a lot of people are saying not for much longer. So there you go. So that's basically why people are saying um, Tesla's not in a good position. I showed you Amazon. I don't think when people say that Tesla is comparable to Amazon, I don't think they actually know what they're talking about. I don't think they've done their homework because from what I can see from the financial statements, Amazon is completely different beast to Tesla. They were really well managed. Yes, they ate losses year after year after year on their bottom line, but they managed that cash flow like they really did manage their cash flow well. And so I think that you can't compare the two companies. They are totally not comparable. They're playing completely different games. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you understand a little bit more about Tesla's financial situation. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.